Hello, everyone. It's Renee, the Practical Shaman, sitting here with a very, very dear shamanic acquaintance, friend that I met. We just figured out it was like 2004. So that was 20 years ago that I went to Ireland to complete the last quadrant of my shamanic training at this great, amazing spot. And one of the things we did, besides for bringing up dead people and doing all that kind of fun stuff, was we threw our rocks metaphorically into the air. And when I got back to the United States, my job vanished the next week. It was one of those times. And then I went back to California, started a holistic center. We're talking 2004, before it was cool. And here we are 20 years later, sitting together around the fire. And I just picked her brain because I want to do more pilgrimages next year for my new Pilgrim's Guide to Walking Wisdom book, which comes out in February. And one of the ones that I really would like to take is to Ireland, because I have a quarter of my ancestry is Irish. And when I went to Ireland that year, I was there like, oh, they just drink over there. That's all they do. And when I got there, I was so pleasantly surprised at how deep and how spiritual and how many men were involved. And it was like one of the most transforming experiences for me about my own ancestry, as well as my own shamanic practice, and certainly my career with the food and beverage industry, which was then kaput. So take it away, Karen. You can introduce yourself. She's just back from Newgrange, and she's full of solstice life.
Mila Boyakas, 1,000 thanks, Renee. And it is wonderful to hold a soul sister in my heart for all those years. And we say in Ireland that true friendship is known when, no matter the time or the years that go by, we swiftly continue the same conversation smoothly as it has been in the last few moments. I am truly honoured to be here today. Ismisha Chroí Nican Vard. My name is Karen Ward, and you'll probably have heard in Irish Gaelic that is translated as daughter of a bard. So I am very much a storyteller, a wind shaman, as they say. And I have some heartwarming stories for you this day. We bask in the revels of the winter solstice time. And in Ireland, we are very blessed to have one of our sacred sites that is unique to the Celtic Isles and very special and known worldwide. No matter where we are, we've all heard of the pyramids of Giza in Egypt. We've heard about the Grand Canyon in the Americas, the Niagara Falls. We know about Stonehenge in England, but it is Newgrange that is most known here on the island of Ireland. Now, our indigenous name for Newgrange is She in Broga, and that is in Brú na Bóinne. And that translates as she, the fairy kind, in Broga, in the land. And Brú na Bóinne is the place of Boann. And Boann is the river goddess. She has a beautiful story, which I will be happy to share with you in a little while. And also that of the Cailleach. She is the crone of winter. And this, of course, the season is her domain. On the morning of the winter solstice, and indeed either day of the solstice, the sun stops. And we call this in Irish Gaelic, Green Stad na Gevra. Green for sun, stad means stop. So the sun at its lowest trajectory. And as the sun rises, the rays come into a light box in this mighty cairn, womb-shaped, the womb of the earth here in Ireland, shining in here in this light box which is a small enough aperture, and snaking up the passageway to illuminate this grand chamber within. Now, back in the day of our ancestors, there would have been druids of a very high order who would have been in there at this time to watch this magnificent phenomenon. Nowadays, we are a very democratic way of doing things. Anybody who visits Newgrange during the year can write their name and their email address and apply to a lottery to be one of 25 people who get to be inside that chamber in the dark of winter, waiting for the sun to rise and shine into the cairn. And I am honoured to say that over the years, in 2011, I have been one of those privileged people. Now, as you can imagine, anybody who's heard of Newgrange would be only honoured to be in there, even out of curiosity. But of course, if anybody walks the shamanic path, we know about the experience of the dance of light and dark, and how the ancestors speak to us so much. Their wisdom comes through the mist of time to us. But you can imagine, if you live on the island of Ireland, that invitation would be one of the great manifestations that we could ever receive. And I was honoured to be invited in by a wonderful woman, Kristen Tyson from Australia, who won that lottery. And her travelling partner couldn't come at that time, and she brought me in. Now, I have to say, I had anticipated, as many of us who are familiar with shamanic journeying, how that might be. But the Imram, or Imrama, the plural as we call it here in Irish Gaelic, those wonder voyages was of an entirely different order that day. I had an out-of-body experience, completely spontaneous. It felt very safe, but I was literally on the ceiling of this corbelled roof in this mighty cairn. And in the darkness, you could hear a pin drop. And then imperceptibly down the passageway, which is quite small, you could see the light creeping closer and closer, snaking its way up this passage to illuminate the chamber. Kristen and myself spontaneously reached our hands into the light, bathed in the light, and both of us were therapists, physical, mental, emotional, holistic therapists. So this was really, really important for us. But I could feel myself catapult onto the ceiling, and the presence of the ancestors was absolutely magnificent. Now, Boann, the river goddess, this river runs in front of Newgrange, and her story is quite telling for all of us these days. She was married to a man called Necton, and he was the keeper of the well of Sagus. And anybody who knows your Irish legends may know that the great salmon of wisdom swam in this well and was fed by the hazelnuts from the 9 sacred hazelnut trees. Only Necton and his menfolk were allowed to tend the well. Boann, his wife, did 2 extraordinary things. The first one was she had a secret love tryst with her compatriot, the Dagda, the god Dagda. He was the father god of the Tuatha Dé Danann, the tribe of Mother Earth. And he could magically make 1 year be equivalent to 1 day. So Necton was sent off on a task lasting 1 day. Boann, of her own volition, came into the mighty cairn to the Dagda, and they had mad, impassioned, glorious love making. She became pregnant, and 9 months later, Aengus Mac Og, the god of love, was born. And as is the way with many of these myths and legends, he grew up instantly. And then he, with the mischievous wink, tricked his father, the Dagda, into gifting him Newgrange, Sheambroga, for his lifetime. So it became his house, a god of love, living in this magnificent, mighty womb in the earth, That makes so much sense to us and may indeed warm the cockles of our hearts. And Angus fell in love with Care, the swan maiden, she who spent half the day as a swan and the other half the nighttime as a human. And he, his love so strong, influenced no doubt by his mother and father, made their love happen by shape-shifting into a swan. And to this day we see hundreds of swans on the River Boyne in front of Newgrange. Now Boann, when her young man grew up, went back to her husband, who thought it was only one day. And she did something quite extraordinary again. She defied the order of the day and said, I want to receive the wisdom of the well. And down she marched, she walked in, she looked into the sacred waters. And some will say that the waters rose and they destroyed her, taking out an eye, an arm, a leg. But those of us who know feel in our hearts that the mighty waters rose, recognizing in her that feisty, impassioned woman, that divine feminine rising, equal but different to the divine masculine. And she became embodied of the river. All became one. And she flows all the way down to the Irish Sea. Now, why am I telling you these particular stories? Well, I have here behind me the wonderful lantern, which was lit yesterday morning by a little one. And this carries the flame of the rising sun at Newgrange on winter solstice. There were thousands of us there. You can just about see that there. Yeah, thousands of us at Newgrange. And you could feel the palpable love. Angus must have been smiling. You could feel the women folk, equal but different to their men folk in our modern world. And there was Boann flowing outside going, ah, yes. Women shamans, just like the men folk, equal but different. And there was also the wisdom of the Cailleach, the wise crone. Now she is a very special deity. She is the crone goddess. She's the great grandmother. And I'm sure Renee might agree with me, but there are some of us in our midst who are, yes, crones. We still might be baby crones, but we're still crones. And there's something about reclaiming this elder status, particularly in the world we live in. And of course, the menfolk come into their sage stage. So crones and sages equal but different. Now, as the sun rises in Newgrange, the 25 special people are within in the dark, but outside there have been anything from 300 and this year over 1,000 people gathered, singing, dancing, chanting. There were wolfhounds, there were blacksmiths, there were those with the whipshade horns. It was magnificent. And we were summoning up the sun to shine in the cairn. And this is where the great oracle comes in. Because how the sun rises in Newgrange on the morning of winter solstice is very much a way of divination for the year ahead. Now, I don't have to explain to you, we live in extraordinary times, and there has been much going on in humanity with dark forces, with those who would not have the people of the heart and the people of the light, their best interests at heart. So it's difficult for many people at this time. And we all looked keenly at what was happening the morning of the winter solstice. As we made our way in the darkness, the skies were grey, and we could just about see the half moon peeping out every so often from the grey clouds. There was a little bit of rain, squalling. It was quite windy. And of course, as many of you will know, the wind brings changes. There was a lot of weather witching going on. I have to say, a forte in my family that I have been passed down to know of this wisdom. So when we gathered outside and it became lighter and lighter, and we looked to the horizon, to Red Mountain, where the sun was due to rise, at the exact moment of dawn, there was a band of thick grey cloud. And the people sang, and we danced, and we chanted. Some people who may not have known of medicine ways were, oh, the sun didn't rise, how disappointing. And we danced, and we sang, and we chanted. And there were others who left then and said, oh, it didn't happen this year. And we danced, and we sang, and we chanted. The sun was due to rise at 9 minutes to 9. And at 9 minutes past 9, over this thick bank of dark grey cloud, the rays began to rise. And we all stood with bated breath as the sun began to peep up over the clouds, the blue skies behind, and it was a picture-perfect sunrise, gladdening our hearts, bathing our faces in delight and wonder. And a little one lit the flame that I have behind me. And we've taken this sacred flame all the way from Newgrange here for you today, so that you may bring this in your heart of hearts, in your Celtic soul, to continue for the year ahead. Interestingly enough, the little one who was due to light the flame, little Katie from Wicklow, who's 10, somehow didn't make it on time. The alarm didn't go off, whatever. So John, my husband, and I looked around, and here was a family, a young family. The little boy was about 6, and there was a little girl, she was about 2 or 3. And we asked the parents, would one of their children be happy to light the flame, assuming it would be the little boy with his Spider-Man hat on. And he was interested, but maybe not showing as much enthusiasm as he might. When out of nowhere, his little sister went, me, and she pointed at the lantern, much to the surprise of her parents. And she toddled over, and with the assistance of her mother, Ciara, and myself, we lit the lantern straight off from the rising sun glinting down from Red Mountain. And this little one's name is Ree, R-E Fada, pronounced Ray. So a ray of light from the golden sun was lit by a little girl called Ray, and the Irish Gaelic word R-E Fada is translated as new ways, a new shift in consciousness. It's a very potent word. And we smiled knowingly and we went, ah, yes. We may be starting 2025 with a seemingly thick band of dark grey cloud that might seem impenetrable. There will be those who give up, who become hopeless and helpless. But there will be those who sing, who dance, who chant, who come together in community, knowing in our heart of hearts, in the very fibre of our beings, that all is well, that all is one. Aentus, Aentus, Aentus. Love will prevail against all. And the energetic frequency of love is open and available to everyone, but only those who open their beautiful protected hearts may connect with this. It is said that the sacred sites the world over, certainly in Ireland, vibrate with a very special frequency. And many visit these special places and think, it's a field, it's a waterfall, it's a mountain, it's a canyon. So what? Because they don't give themselves time to come to stillness, just like the sun at the winter solstice, and to open, but to open with a protected heart, much like the rose, the queen of flowers, she of the magnificent scent of a rose, but a rose has thorns. She has her protection. And we too, when we open our protected hearts, may connect with the wisdom of Newgrange, this mighty womb in the heart of Ireland. And of course, every sacred site has its gifts and its wisdom. But we also tap in and connect with the unseen, the myriad of help that is there for us from the spiritual world. For you, that might be angelic realms, it might be ancestors, it could be deities, it might be the animal kingdom, the plants, the mycelia from the very living beings that permeate the earth. You will know. The wisdom is there for all of us. And I bring with me this lantern. And in a few moments now, I'm going to dim the lights and offer you an opportunity for a little ritual. And this will be one that is ubiquitous with nearly every shamanic culture in the world, where we reach forward and we take the light in to the cauldron of our womb, second chakra, the dantian of the menfolk, and then to the cauldron of our heart, and this, the cauldron of warming, and then to the cauldron of our medicine eye, and we would call this the cauldron of wisdom. So power, love, warming, and wisdom. And then, of course, perhaps inspired by my story of the light shining into Newgrange, you might even reach your hands forward towards the light to bathe them, particularly if you practice acupuncture or Reiki or any therapeutic way of being with your hands. You might have a musical instrument, you might have a mesa or a mala nefa, as we would have here, whatever comes to you. So I'm going to give you a moment to prepare while I dim the lights. And you can see now in the background the beautiful sacred flame of Newgrange. You'll hear me lit in the background, and you'll see me reach forward, and this is your cue to do the same. So when you are ready, bringing the light into the cauldron of your womb, of your dantian, the cauldron of power. Breathing in, anchoring this in your cauldron of power. Reaching forward once more, and this time bringing to the cauldron of love, the cauldron of warming. Anchoring that in. And this time reaching forward to the flame and bringing in to your medicine eye, your third eye, the cauldron of wisdom, and breathing to anchor this in. And now reaching forward with your hands, with any sacred instruments, to bathe them in the light. Ah, 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 mm, mm. Taking a moment now to simply be and to receive as I gently once more put the lights on. That's it. Simply being with the energy of all you have experienced. For some, this will become apparent later on as the day unfolds, maybe even in your dream time. Or you may have felt something in the stories I have shared, or even seeing the light behind me. The story of little Ray, whose name means shift in the order of things, a change, a seismic change coming into our world. And to remember that we sing, we dance, we chant, and we wait, trusting, surrendering, and believing to the way everything will be. All is one, all is well. Aentus. Mille buíochas, 1,000 thanks.
Wow, that was really beautiful. And it got me even more excited to take that pilgrimage and walk in Ireland and visit those sacred sites again, but from a 20-year later perspective and with a small group of people. So that calls to you, reach out. And Karen, I'm just like awed to see the storyteller and the wisdom keeper you emulate. So thank you so much for that deep well of knowledge, and I feel very connected still. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Renee. And you beautifully evoked how coming here to this island can deeply connect people with their Celtic soul, their spirit, their way of being in the world, can open doors. Yes, we're in some ways we're a best kept secret. We are a tiny island off the west coast of Europe, but way back in the mists of time, we were called the island of saints and scholars because in the dark ages, in the medieval times, the monks who were very paganistic, very shamanic, came forth. Saint Brendan, Saint Columba, and of course, dear to my heart, Saint Bridget, Bridget, the pre-Celtic deity. And I'm thinking that perhaps the Bridget Way pilgrimage might call to you, particularly Renee, and indeed anyone who wishes to come. We're very welcome at the bridgetsway.ie website to receive any queries, to come along. Myself and John, we often are invited to lead groups or to come into a group for a day and to bring the sacred sites alive. And we really see this as truly an honor and a privilege. And I salute you, and of course all the wonderful people watching this, the I Am Symposium here at winter solstice time. Mille buíochas, 1,000.